What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today on this rainy day, we're going to do a little in the bag update slash announcement. So let's go on into the video. Alrighty, so the video that I had planned, I was supposed to already have shot, but rain and some other things came up. So I was like, okay, what's some things? So I asked a couple people, and I was going to do a bag update. And if most of y'all don't know, I am sponsored by Gateway and High Disc Golf. Both of them have requirements for me that I can't keep up with. So I decided to drop them both as sponsors, not out of I hate them or anything like that. So don't go, and I'll still represent them for the rest of the year. But I just couldn't own up to the requirements, so I decided to drop both of them. And I'm going to be primarily open bag. I might have a couple with Negative Disc Golf. I'm going to have them primarily as a one of my major sponsors for the year, and then I have my other ones. But primarily I will be open bag. But today we're going to talk about more basically what I'm bagging, or what I have been bagging for like the last couple months or so, and then what kind of what discs out of the we're going to split it up driver, mid, and putters, and then what will likely be in the bag, and what's kind of on the chopping block until the real in the bag for 2026 comes out. So now we're going to get on into the drivers. Alrighty, so like I said, we've got some drivers here that, like I said, are not. Like I said, I've been throwing these for a month or a couple months now, because I was struggling with the High Disc Golf and Gateway side of it, so I wasn't really able to own up to that. But some of these are still the same. I'll throw up something right here of the ones that I was bagging when I made in the bag earlier this year, and then obviously I'll talk about the ones that are currently in the bag. So the first one is the Innovistar Wraith. This one has been in the bag for quite some time. Still kind of a go-to straight driver. Then you have one of the newer ones to the bag that I started bagging maybe about a month or two ago, which is the Gateway Aura, and this is the lightweight version. It's about 157 grams. It's almost straight, but gets a little turn out of it, and I love this one. So this is one of the probably the two discs in my bag that were Gateway oriented. And so I was like, okay, well, if I can only bag two and you require 50% of my bag, I kind of hard to own up to that. So I was sad to do that one, but I was like, okay. The next one is the MVP Trail. I got Brody Smith's thing on it just to have something kind of iconic. But I love this disc. It's kind of like with no wind, dead straight. So perfect disc there. Then you've got one of the newer ones that I've been bagging for probably about less than a month, because it just came out not long ago as the making of this video. But it's a Wraith, but it's from Infinite, and they're iBlend plastic. So you have the Star version here, but the iBlend one, it seems to be more of like a beat up. For me, it flies more like a beat up Star Wraith, like the one that I already have. But this one I can get a little bit more turn out of, and it's 168 grams, so it's really good and nice. And like I said, I can get some turn out of it and also kind of push it straight, but it still has that reliable Wraith um, flight to it. So then the next two, like I said, this one I just got at a tournament at the making of this video about a month ago, or less than a month ago, probably a couple weeks actually. But this is a ESP Cicada from Discraft. I threw it. I actually threw it during the tournament, so I wasn't really bagging it at the time. But I threw this at the tournament, and like this is the disc that I needed, and I was like, oh my god! And it kind of complements the Trail here, because this one, from what I found out for me, doesn't fly like how I want it to in the wind. But so that's why I would pull this out, because I can get them roughly the same distance, even though it's 10 and a 7 speed. But for me, my arm speed's still not there. I'm getting close to it the way I want it, but it's still, this is a nice disc. And honestly, I recommend it if you want a nice straight flying disc, go for the ESP Cicada. The next one um, is the Doomsday Chemtrail. Now, this thing I thought was supposed to be kind of flippy, but I think with my inconsistency on throwing some Anheuser shot releases, I think this one is almost pretty much the same thing as Cicada. So we'll get to the chopping block stuff here in just a second, but this is probably one that's on it. But this is a really nice. This is probably the only Doomsday disc that I've discovered that is like, oh my god. Now I haven't thrown all the other ones yet. I do have a video coming out with Doomsday um, next week actually. Um, so stay tuned for that, where I get my honest review, first time throws with all the other ones, to where maybe the chemtrail's not my favorite because it's the only one that I've thrown. So maybe we'll have to just wait and see on that one. Then the next two here pretty much are the same thing, but I've got an Discraft Undertaker with Ezra Robinson's stamp on there, and then I've got the Discraft Vulture in their confetti, like the Z confetti plastic, but it's got a cool Ezra Robinson Milkman. If you have, you'd have to go back and watch the Foundation video to kind of get more information on that. But the only thing about these two is they pretty much are the same, like, flight characteristics for me. I primarily throw the Undertaker on forehand, and I throw the Vulture on backhand. So um, it's kind of, it's one of those things where I could probably go without one. So that's going to be something in this off season, because there was a tournament at the making of this video that I was going to be doing here in probably next weekend, but I had some things come up, so I'm not going to be able to do that. So now I'm in my metaphorical off season. But so now we're going to kind of talk about, for the drivers. I know I've probably been talking a little bit, but the drivers that are on the chopping block are these three. The Chemtrail, mainly because it flies like the Cicada, but I really like the Cicada. I can get a more consistent flight out of it, but nothing is official yet. So I got that one. And then these two are on the chopping block mainly because I could probably live with only one of them in the bag more than both of them. So it's going to be one of those things of, I'll just have to kind of see which one. So if you want to leave comments down below, maybe some better options for maybe that slot, maybe that one that flies 100% like both of them, leave them down in the description below. But now we're going to get on into the mid-ranges. Alrighty, so now we're into the mid-ranges, and this is a little bit smaller bunch. And some of them are newer, some of them have been in the bag a little bit. But to start off, we're going to go with the flippiest option, which I've kind of started to fall in love with, is the Dynamic Disc Patrol. It's one that I've never heard of, and I found it in a used bin. It's 55-31. Love this thing. It's like it holds the angle, but it also still has some fight back. So this is one I would highly recommend to a lot of people. But that's good. Then you've got the new Paul Macbeth ESP Melita in the prototype plastic. I know the day I got this one, I was like, I don't know how it's going to be, because it's pretty much the same numbers as a Buzz, 55-11. But this one is, it's a little bit shallower, but it's nice and dead straight. And I love this thing. So this one definitely probably going to be a staple in the bag for quite some time, unless I get a sponsorship that requires me to take something out. The next one is one that's kind of, I'm not sure if I'm going to bag it how much longer, but it's the Buzz SS. It's the Tour Series Ezra Robinson Buzz SS. I love this. It kind of gets some slight turn out of it, but I'm starting to throw it a little bit straighter, and it's not getting much turn. So it's one that I'm not really sure, but I do like this disc. So it's going to be something in the off season that I'm going to have to kind of work on before potentially January, because I think that's the first tournament of the year that I'll be doing. So you got that one. Then you got one that it's more, this one's more in a testing period, is the Discmania MD3. in the, I think, C-line plastic, I think is what it is. I really like this disc. I've been able to throw it kind of, I can hold it straight, but it still has a little bit of a, not a hard fade, but it has enough to it. But this one's more of a testing period right now, but I do like it. Then the next two, you have, like I said, they're from Negative Disc Golf, my Ritual and the Quake from DGA, the Sullivan Tipton. I don't know if you could see that, but got his little signature on it. So the difference between, like I said, the MD3 for me right now is like I can push it a little bit straighter with not having that dump so hard of the fade. But it's still good. And then you've got right now, this one is, I can push it a little straight, but it still has a little bit of a harder fade. And then the Quake is just nice and stable, more of a utility disc for me, but I still love this disc. But the ones that are on the chopping block as of right now is really the only one is the Buzz SS. Because with the way I'm throwing it recently, I don't know, it's kind of straight, but I can also kind of, it's not really super, I can't really get a ton of turn out of it. So, and that's where like the Patrol comes in. It's, the Patrol is not super flippy, but it kind of fades back, kind of like how this is. So there's going to be some things that I'm going to have to work on in this off season. I keep saying that, but this is probably the only one that's on the chopping block. And so now let's get on to the final one, the putters. Alrighty, so we've got a decent amount of putters. I got one that's not really with me right now. That one I'll go ahead and say is the Zone SS. I've kind of fallen in love with the Zone SS, but currently I'm getting it dyed with the Alabama logo, so don't have that one on me at the moment. But I do have these though. The first one is my flippy option, which is the Fierce. And once again, I did it with the drivers. I forgot to mention it with the mids, but I'm throwing all the ones that I was bagging earlier this year up until now. But these are all the putters. But the Fierce is one, I don't know why I haven't thrown it before, but it's like I can kind of put it on some Annie, and then it just holds that angle. I've almost aced with it a couple times. Still hunting for that first one, so I haven't hit my goal for. I still got some time, and I'll post it on my social medias if I do before from now until the end of the year. But I love this disc here. Then I've got like I said, the Big Z Luna with. If you haven't heard of Sun King, shout out to them. They've got a Let's Pop It thing they do on Whatnot, and that's how they pop stuff, some of their stuff that they have. But this one is almost dead straight, but then it still has a little bit of a fade. Love this disc. It's not like, I know there's so many straight options out there, so it's kind of one of this one. But I love this, and then obviously the Zone SS. It's a little bit more. I would say it's about the same as the Luna, but has the not as much fade. So it's kind of, maybe the Luna could come out, but I'm not really sure. The next one is it's the second one for Gateway made that I was considering, but the Cash. I've had this one since November of last year. I got this one during Black Friday, and this disc has been one of the only discs I think out of my whole bag that's probably stayed in the longest since I got it. Maybe the Ritual, but I think this one's probably the only one that stayed in the bag the longest, because the Wraith didn't. I haven't kept that in the bag all the time. So, but this one is nice and stable still. It's hit plenty of trees, hit the ground plenty of times. I've hit almost ace with this one a couple times too. But I do love this. Just can highly recommend it. And maybe you probably can't find this one much right now, but if you can get your hands on a Cash, you won't regret it. So then you've got one. I've got these two right here for my approaches. The Zone SS is kind of for approaches, but more that's off the tee. I'll talk more about it once I get it back. But I've got the Zone here, dyed by Die For You disc, and also signed by Sullivan Tipton. The only signed disc that I will ever throw, but I probably do this for approaches. For like, I need some. It's not dead straight, but if I can push it straight enough on forehand or backhand, this is typically and still has that zone feel. But then I have this Get Beefy Zone OS that Brody Smith ran, and this is more of a utility disc. To where it's like if I'm in that spot where I need something to, I want to push that angle, but I also want it to fight back. This is what I would do um, for those like scramble type shots. Is what this one would be for. Um, and then finally, my putting putters for this year, or for most of this year, was the PA3s. These are like I've had these for probably about a couple months, but I was putting with the PA3s. The hand feel for them has been perfect. I've still missed some putts, obviously, but my putting has got more consistent since putting with these. Um, and so I love the PA3s. I've tried some other ones out, but I think the PA3s are going to be the ones that I'm going to stick with for quite some time. And so the putters that are on the chopping block, I would say as of right now, is the Luna. I love this disc. Probably won't ever get rid of them, but since there's so many options out there for a straight flying putter, I've just kind of, and this could be the bag for next in the bag for next year, and all these right here could be when I make the in the bag video for next year. All these could be in it, but that is TBD. But like I said, I love this disc, but it's currently on the chopping block just because there's so many other straight flying putters out there that I could. And then I've applied for some sponsorships that maybe could hinder some of these, but as of right now, this is my little in the bag update, and then a little announcement about the sponsors and everything. But I will still represent all my sponsors till the end of the year and give more of an update of who I'm sponsored by and all that kind of stuff when I make my in the bag for 2026. So, with all that being said, thanks to all the sponsors for this year, being Gateway, um, High Disc Golf, Dotson Disc, Route 66, and Negative Disc Golf. Thanks to all of y'all. Thanks to all the people that have sponsored videos, and that we'll see more people that have sponsored videos here in the future. And then stay tuned for the 12 Days of Discmas that is coming up in probably about a month. So, with all that being said, I'll see y'all on the course.